They never wanted you to heal. They never wanted you to stand tall. They never wanted you to know the truth, that every weight they placed on your shoulders was never meant to break you, only to keep you controlled. They whispered doubts, not because you were weak, but because they feared the day you realized your own strength. They fed you lies, not because they were true, but because the truth of who you are would burn through every illusion they built to keep you small. But here you are, still breathing, still standing, and whether they like it or not, this moment is yours. You feel it, don't you? That fire in your chest, the one they tried to smother with rejection, betrayal, and loss. The one they hoped would die beneath the weight of their silence, but it never left you. No matter how much they tried to bury it, it flickered beneath the ashes, waiting, just waiting, for you to fan it into an inferno. Listen to me. You are not a mistake. You are not a footnote in someone else's story. You are not the broken thing they tried to make you believe you were. Every scar, every wound, every moment you thought you would never recover from, those were never the end of your story. They were the beginning of something greater. They wanted you to believe you needed their approval, that without their validation you were nothing. But let me tell you something they never wanted you to hear. You were never seeking their permission to rise. You were only waiting to realize that you never needed it in the first place. They built walls around you, thinking it would keep you in, but what they never expected was that you would learn to climb. They tried to close the door on your dreams, thinking it would stop you, but what they never considered was that you would learn to build your own. And now you are on the edge of something they never prepared for. Your triumph. They never wanted to see you rise because your victory is the closure they never wanted. They didn't want to witness you standing tall, unshaken, untouched by the wounds they inflicted. They never wanted to see you thrive without them, to watch you become something they could no longer control. Because your healing, it is the final chapter they never wanted to read. Your success, it is the proof that they lost the power they thought they had over you. But listen closely. This is not about them. This is about you. This is about reclaiming every single piece of yourself that they tried to steal. This is about walking through the fire not as someone who barely survived, but as someone who emerged forged, unbreakable, unstoppable. You are here for a reason, and it is not to cower. It is not to shrink. It is not to wait for a better time, a better opportunity, or better circumstances. The time is now. The choice is yours. And the world is watching. So tell me, are you ready to take back what's yours? They told you it was all in your head, that the pain you carried was just a shadow of your imagination, that the weight pressing against your chest, the hollow ache in your gut, the nights you spent staring at the ceiling, questioning everything, none of it was real, but you know better. You felt it, you lived it, you still carry the echoes of it in your bones. You remember the nights when the silence was so loud, it drowned out everything else. The nights when you lay awake, replaying conversations, dissecting every word, trying to understand where you went wrong. The moments when you questioned if you were the problem, if maybe, just maybe, you were too much, too broken, too unworthy of love, of recognition, of something more. And the voices, they were always there, weren't they? Whispering, telling you that you weren't enough, that you would never be enough, that no matter how much you tried, how much you gave, how much of yourself you poured into people who never deserved you, it would never be enough. The world would take and take and take, and you would be left with nothing but the scraps of your own existence, wondering why you were never chosen. Never seen, never heard. They dismissed your pain because it made them uncomfortable. They turned away because your suffering was inconvenient. They called you dramatic when you tried to speak. They called you weak when you finally broke. But where were they when you needed them? Where were they when the weight became unbearable? When you stood at the edge of your own breaking point, screaming inside for someone, anyone, to notice? No one came, and that's what hurt the most. Because the villains in your story were never just the ones who wronged you. They were also the ones who stood by and did nothing. The ones who stood by and did nothing. The ones who stood by and did nothing. The ones who saw you drowning and chose to look the other way. The ones who fed you empty words instead of reaching out a hand. The ones who only loved you when it was convenient. And then there were the chains you couldn't see. The ones wrapped around your mind, forged in the fires of every lie you were ever told. The belief that you were unworthy. The fear that you would never measure up. The doubt that kept you frozen, watching your dreams slip further and further out of reach. The toxic expectations of a world that only valued you when you were useful. When you were silent, when you fit neatly into the mold they designed for you. The truth is, you were never meant to live like this. You were never meant to carry this pain as if it were a part of you. It was given to you, placed upon you by people who never knew how to love you the right way. People who were afraid of your power, afraid of your voice, afraid of what you could become if you ever realized you didn't need them. But I need you to hear me. That pain, it is real. That suffering, it happened. The betrayal, the loneliness, the nights spent drowning in your own thoughts, it was all real. And you have every right to feel it, to acknowledge it, to scream it into the void if you must. But it will not define you. You are not what they did to you. You are not the sum of your scars. You are not the echoes of their rejection, the aftermath of their cruelty, the shadow of their indifference. You are something more, and though the weight of these chains has pressed into your skin, though it has left marks upon your soul, though it has shaped the way you see yourself and the world around you, it does not own you. You are not a prisoner here. And soon, you will remember how to break free. You remember the moment, don't you? The moment when everything shattered. The moment when the ground beneath your feet gave way, and suddenly you were falling, grasping for something, anything that could stop the descent. But there was nothing. Just the deafening silence of loss, the unforgiving pull of gravity, the realization that the life you had built, the identity you had clung to, was slipping through your fingers like sand. The betrayal cut deeper than any blade. Maybe it came from someone you trusted, someone who swore they would never hurt you, someone whose words once felt like home, and yet they turned away, leaving you to bleed alone. Maybe it wasn't one moment, but a series of them, a slow, steady unraveling of everything you thought was certain. Promises broken, friendships abandoned, love that was conditional, fleeting, disposable. Or maybe it was failure that nearly crushed you. You tried, didn't you? You gave everything. You worked until exhaustion blurred your vision, until your hands ached from reaching, until your heart begged for rest. But it wasn't enough. The doors stayed closed. The opportunities slipped through the cracks. The world moved forward, and you were left behind, questioning if you ever truly belonged in the first place. The rejection felt personal. The silence was suffocating. It wasn't just that they walked away. It was that they never looked back. It wasn't just that they didn't choose you. It was that they acted as if you never even existed. And that was what tore you apart. Because when the people you love make you feel like nothing, how do you not start believing it yourself? There were days when you couldn't look in the mirror, nights when you curled into yourself, arms wrapped around your own body, trying to hold together what felt like a crumbling soul. You wanted to scream, but the world had made it clear. Your pain was inconvenient. Your sadness was too heavy. Your heartache was your burden to bear, and no one else's. So you carried it alone, and it became a part of you, and you for the weight, the grief, the quiet ache of existing in a world that never seemed to have a place for you. It settled in your bones, etched itself into your skin, whispered in your ear every time you dared to hope again. Maybe you even reached the edge. Maybe you stood there, staring into the abyss, wondering what it would feel like to just let go. Maybe you thought, for one terrible moment, that disappearing would be easier than carrying this weight for one more day. But you didn't. You are here, and that means something. It means that no matter how heavy the burden, no matter how deep the betrayal, no matter how many times the world told you that you were nothing, you survived. You survived. You survived the nights you thought you wouldn't make it through. You survived the heartbreak, the failures, the moments that felt like the end. And that is proof, undeniable proof, that you are stronger than you ever knew. They thought you would stay down, thought you would break under the weight of it all, thought you would disappear, fade into the background, become just another story of someone who almost made it. But they were wrong, because you are still here. And that means your story is not over yet. The fire took everything. It stripped you bare, reduced you to embers, left you standing in the wreckage of what once was. You felt like nothing but ruins, the remains of a life that had been burned to the ground. But there, in the quiet, in the stillness after the storm, something stirred, a whisper, a flicker, a spark, because they thought the fire was your ending. They thought it would consume you, turn you to dust, make you disappear. But what they never understood was this: the fire didn't destroy you, it revealed you. It burned away the illusions, the lies, the expectations that were never yours to carry. It showed you what was real, what was unbreakable, what had been inside of you all along. You were never meant to stay in the ashes. You were meant to rise. For too long, you believed you needed their approval, that your worth was something to be measured, granted, given, or taken away. That if you could just prove yourself, if you could just be enough, they would finally see you, finally love you, finally give you the validation you had been chasing for so long. But the truth is, you were never incomplete. You were never waiting to be chosen. You were never less than. Your worth was never in their hands. Do you hear me? Read that again. Let it sink in. Your worth was never in their hands. And the moment you realize that is the moment everything changes. Because you don't need their validation to exist. You don't need their permission to take up space. You don't need to shrink yourself, quiet yourself, mold yourself into something more palatable just to be accepted. You are not here to be what they want. You are here to be you. And that is the moment they never wanted you to reach. The moment when the power shifts. The moment when you stop waiting. The moment when you realize that everything they tried to break in you is still there, still alive, still burning. You are standing at a crossroads. On one side, the path they wanted for you. The one where you keep believing the lies, keep carrying the weight, keep apologizing for being too much, too loud, too ambitious, too real. The path where you stay small because that's where they're comfortable seeing you. And then there's the other path, the one that terrifies them, the one where you rise, the one where you take back your voice, the one where you refuse to let the past define you, where you refuse to live in the shadow of their expectations, the one where you stand tall, unapologetic, unshaken. The choice is yours. And I know it's not easy. I know the weight of everything you've been through makes it feel impossible some days. I know the fear of stepping into your power is real. But listen to me. You have already survived what was meant to destroy you. That means you are stronger than you think. That means you are capable of more than you ever imagined. That means you are ready. So tell me, will you keep waiting, or will you take what has always been yours? No one is coming, no savior, no miracle, no perfectly timed moment where everything suddenly aligns and the world hands you the justice you've been waiting for. You've waited long enough, haven't you? Waited for the apology that never came, waited for the recognition you should have never had to beg for, waited for someone to look you in the eyes and say, you deserved better. But the waiting has only stolen time. The waiting has only left you in chains, watching as the world moves forward while you remain frozen, hoping, wishing, praying that one day the pain will make sense. But hear me now, there is no redemption in waiting. There is only power in moving. No one is going to hand you what you are owed. No one is going to arrive at your doorstep with all the love, validation, and respect that was withheld from you. No one is going to fix what was broken. But you are capable of more than waiting. You are capable of reclaiming. Look around. Look at the ashes of everything that was taken from you. Look at the pieces of the life they tried to strip away. Do you see it? It's all still there. Waiting, not for someone else to save you, for you to decide that you're done playing small. This is where the shift happens. You are not waiting anymore. You are not pleading anymore. You are not spending one more second giving power to the people, the circumstances, the past that kept you trapped in a cycle of hoping instead of becoming. You are not just a survivor of what happened to you. You are not just a survivor of what happened to you. You are not just a survivor of what happened to you. You are not just a survivor of what happened to you. You are the author of what happens next. Close your eyes and see it. Not the past, not the pain. See yourself as the version of you that refuses to be ignored. The version that doesn't explain themselves to people who were never listening. The version that doesn't ask permission to exist in their full, untamed, undeniable power. The version of you who chooses to rise, not because the world finally made it easy, but because they decided that the world no longer gets a say in what they become. Picture it, feel it, because the world will not hand you your throne, but they will be forced to watch you build it. The ones who doubted you, they will see you rise. The ones who left you, they will hear your name. The ones who underestimated you, they will whisper about the storm they never saw coming. But this is not about them. This is about you. You are standing at the edge of something new, something powerful, something that has been waiting for you to finally claim it. So tell me, will you take it? Will you rise? There was never a version of you that was meant to stay small. That was their illusion, their lie, their greatest attempt to contain something they never truly understood. You were never supposed to blend in, to shrink yourself to fit inside the spaces they carved for you. You were never meant to be silent, waiting in the shadows for a turn that would never come. You were meant to take up space. You were meant to be seen. You were meant to be heard. They never saw it coming, the way you would rise, the way you would turn every ounce of pain into something untouchable, something unstoppable. They assumed you would break under the weight of their indifference, that the wounds they inflicted would keep you bound to the past. But what they never understood, what they will never understand, is that you were never just enduring, you were evolving. Because you are not the person they left behind. You are not the version of you that begged for love, for acceptance, for a place at the table. You have built something far greater than they could have ever imagined. You became the thing they feared the most. Someone who no longer needs them. And now, your success is the only response they will ever get. Not revenge, not wasted energy on proving your worth to people who refuse to see it. Not bitterness, because bitterness keeps you tied to a story that no longer serves you. No, your triumph, your undeniable, relentless, unapologetic triumph, is the only closure they will ever receive. Because you are not the chapter they get to close. You are the entire book they will never finish. They will hear your name in rooms you never stepped foot in. They will watch from a distance as you create, as you rise, as you thrive in a life they never thought you would reach. And maybe, just maybe, there will come a moment when they realize their greatest mistake wasn't underestimating you. It was letting you go. Your comeback will be their greatest regret. Not because you need them to regret it. Not because you waited for their validation. Not because you waited for but because your existence, your resilience, your success, despite everything, is proof that they never had the power they thought they did. You are no longer looking back. You are no longer carrying the weight of the past. You have stepped into something new, something undeniable, something untouchable. And this moment, this transformation, this reckoning, this is what they never wanted to see. But it is here. You are here. And now, the only question left is, what will you do with this power? The past no longer holds you. The chains that once bound you, expectation, doubt, rejection, have fallen away. Not because someone freed you, but because you chose to break them yourself. You are no longer waiting for permission, no longer seeking approval, no longer bending to fit inside spaces that were never built for you. This is what it means to stand in your truth. And it is not an easy road. There will be moments when the old voices try to whisper again, when the world asks you to return to the smaller version of yourself, the version that apologized for existing, the version that played safe to make others comfortable. But you will not go back, because you have seen too much, felt too much, become too much, to ever return to who you were before. You are stepping into something bigger now, a world where you take up space without apology, a world where you do not shrink, do not explain, do not hesitate, a world where your existence alone shakes the foundations of everything they once believed about you. But how do you move forward? How do you ensure that you never slip back into the silence that once consumed you? Here's what you need to know. 1. You owe no one an explanation for your healing. You do not have to justify why you walked away from people who never valued you. You do not have to explain why you chose yourself for the first time. Your healing is yours. Protect it. 2. Silence the doubt before it silences you. It will come. It'll try to seep back in to make you question whether you truly deserve this new life, this new power, this new sense of self. But doubt is a liar, and you do not negotiate with liars. 3. Use your past as fuel, not as a prison. You are not what happened to you, but what happened to you can be the fire that propels you forward, that pushes you beyond limits you never thought you could reach. Use it. Let it drive you, not define you. 4. Command your space. Own your presence. You have earned the right to be here. To walk into rooms with confidence, to speak with certainty, to hold your ground even when others try to diminish you. Never forget that. 5. Choose to thrive. Not just survive, not just exist. Thrive. Wake up every day and make the conscious decision to live boldly, fully, fearlessly. This is not the end of your journey. This is the beginning. A life where you refuse to wait for permission. A life where you step forward, claim your space, and never apologize for the power you hold. A life where you walk through the world as someone who knows exactly who they are. And that is the version of you they never wanted to see. But it is the version of you that was meant to exist all along. This is it. The moment they never wanted you to reach. The moment they feared. The moment they tried to prevent. The moment they whispered against in secret corners, hoping, praying, that you would never see yourself the way you were always meant to. But here you are, unshaken, unbreakable, unstoppable. They never wanted this for you. They never wanted to witness your rise, your reckoning, your resurrection, because your victory is their closure. And they never wanted closure. And they wanted you trapped in an unfinished story, forever stuck in the wounds they inflicted, bound by the doubts they planted, waiting, hoping, needing them to come back and complete what they left undone. But you don't need their ending. You are writing your own. Look around. Feel it. This power, this presence, this undeniable, uncontainable force that is you. They tried to erase you, but your name is etched in stone. They tried to bury you, but you grew through the cracks. They tried to break you, but all they did was sharpen the edges of something too strong to be shattered. This is not about proving them wrong. This is about proving yourself right. Right for believing that you are made for more. Right for refusing to let their silence define your worth. Right for standing back up when every force in the world told you to stay down. You are no longer waiting. You are no longer begging. You are taking. Taking your space. Taking your power. Taking back every dream, every chance, every breath that was once stolen from you. They will watch, whether they want to or not. They will see, whether they admit it or not. And they will know that you were the storm they never saw coming. They will know that you are the fire they thought they had extinguished. They will know that every time they counted you out, they were counting wrong. You will walk away from this, not with revenge in your hands, but with greatness in your grasp, because that is the only answer you will ever need. The past is done. The pain is done. The waiting is done. Now it's time to own your victory, because you were never meant to be anything less than legendary.